Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got a couple companies to talk about news. I got a couple new picks for you today as well. So we're going to get right into that. One of those is Norsemont. Let me pull their news release up. Norsemont announces closing of a third tranche of private placement led by Crescat Capital and Equity Management Associates. They announced that Crescat led this strategic round, and this closed after the second tranche. This was for 1.1 million, and so the total for all three tranches is 5.479 million. And the CEO of the company, Mark Levy, stated, and I quote, closing over 5.4 million and the strategic support of Crescat Capital, Larry Lepard, and Rob McEwen strongly endorses our vision and the upside of the Chocolimpe project. Their backing positions Norsemont to advance drilling, metallurgy, and engineering to unlock significant value for all stakeholders. End quote. And then there was also a quote from Dr. Quinton Henney, who is the geological and technical advisor to Crescat Capital. He stated, and I quote, Norsemont's Chocolimpe project is a massive mineralizing system in the far north of Chile, a region well endowed with very large ore deposits. Although a small part of the uppermost epithermal portion of this system was mined historically, its exploration potential largely remains intact, making this a particularly compelling case. I feel very strongly that a well-focused, sustained drill campaign can quickly add significant additions to the already large gold and silver resources. One also must ask the obvious question of whether there is potential for a large porphyry discovery beneath. In short, we are very excited to be part of this story as Norsemont's sophisticated exploration team uncovers the potential of this world-class porphyry epithermal system. End quote. And then Lawrence Lepard, who is the managing partner at Equity Management Associates, he stated, and I quote, Norsemont's Chocolimpe gold, silver, copper project has the scale, potential, and infrastructure to create significant value. Chile has proven to be an excellent mining jurisdiction with a history of successful large-scale projects going into production. I'm excited to back the team as a strategic shareholder and support them in unlocking this world-class opportunity for all shareholders. So some really good information in those three quotes. I'll add a little bit to it. In Mark Levy's quote, he talked about Crescat Capital, Larry Lepard, and Rob McEwen investing in this financing. Also, Dr. Quinton Henney personally participated as well. And when I see key people like this jumping into a project, it always gives me a strong confidence that good projects tend to attract a lot of good money, and when those are and good people, and when those good people are putting their money in, it says a lot about the quality of the project. And then Dr. Quinton Henney, he talked about the massive mineralizing system of Chocolimpe, and that is a very accurate statement. Just in the first 70 or so meters at the top of this system, the resource is about 2.5 million ounces of gold. And so that is indicative of a large system, but it also tells you that below that, because in these epithermal vein systems, they tend to go much deeper, and they come off of a porphyry. All right. And so he talks about the small uppermost epithermal portion of the system was mined, and there's still a lot of resource left beyond what they mined. And it does have, as he says, exploration, excellent exploration. And there is a lot of room to grow that resource with a strategic drilling campaign. It's important to note that whenever I talk about this company, I keep mentioning that the drilling that went into that resource was shallow, down only about 80 or 90 meters at the most, and that the epithermal veins are vertical and the drill holes were vertical. So that's not the most optimum way to drill that. If you are right beside a vertical vein, you will miss it with a vertical hole. And so, considering that they were able with that suboptimal drilling directions to come up with a 2.5 million ounce resource, it's very exciting because if you get in there with some angled holes, you can tie in a bunch of those widely spaced holes, and that will help you to increase the resource and the grade. And so I'm very excited about that upcoming drill program. And Dr. Henny, he also pointed out that a sophisticated exploration team, and that is a very accurate statement. David Flynn, who was one of the people that helped find the one of the world's greatest mines in Indonesia, Grasberg. He worked on that project for 15 years, so he knows these epithermal porphyry systems extremely well. And another important thing to understand about these epithermal veins that were all drilled shallow is that they come off of a porphyry. Now, another thing that comes off of porphyry is called a breccia pipe. And these are broken up rocks where the fluids made their way into, and they look kind of like a cylinder or a cone. And they come off of a porphyry as well. And so there is a known quartz or known breccia unit on the property that has only had a few holes drilled into it. And it really is wide open to keep going after that at depth. And the epithermal veins and the breccia can help them vector into the porphyry itself. So that tells you that the entire epithermal and porphyry system is intact, and that's very exciting. Um, and Lawrence Lepard talks about that the project has the scale, potential, and infrastructure to create significant value. This was a historical mine. So there's a ADR plant, there's tailings, everything is permitted for mining. So it's not just ease of access through roads, which are there as well, but it's all this infrastructure power on the property already that's been permitted. And and he states it correctly that this is a world-class opportunity for all shareholders, and I couldn't agree more. Now, here's the stock. As you can see, it went through a golden cross back here, and of late, since about June, it broke quite significantly above that 50-day moving average. It had a very strong move from around the 20-cent level to almost 80 cents. So that's a 60-cent gain. And you can see that as some profit taking came in, it only gave back a small portion of that gain. This is a very bullish indicator to me, as is the trajectory of the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. So next up is them to start talking about the exploration drilling that they're going to be doing, metallurgical work that they're going to be doing, because that could be a needle mover as well. This project has about 2 million ounces in what is categorized as sulfides. But not all sulfide deposits are the same. Sometimes the sulfide or the gold is contained completely inside of of sulfides. And in this case, as you can read, if you go on their website, they have a technical report. And in that technical report, it talks about how the gold is actually attached to, not encased inside of the sulfides. And so, and they talk about approximately 60% of that is outside of the sulfides. So that metallurgical work will answer a lot of questions that big time investors will be interested in, because it would mean that a great deal to the potential to bring that entire oxide and sulfide resource into production. And so, very exciting company, still has a very modest valuation. And as they talk more about in their news releases, now that the financing is closed, they'll be able to talk about getting back in there and doing the drilling, which is all permitted as well, and how they're going to go about using that money wisely to enhance the evaluation of the company with strategically planned drilling and metallurgical work and engineering. So it's a very exciting company, and it's somewhat of an undiscovered gem. And so I'm really excited about Norsemont, and I think you should do your homework on them. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about Golden Cross. Earlier today, I did an interview with their chief executive officer, and we it was more of an introduction to the company kind of interview. But just before we went on the air, they had also put out this news release. So I want to talk about the news release a little more fully. So they talked about Golden Cross Resources launches first ever drilling at the Shepherd's Hill and Welcome Reef gold prospects. They talk about first ever drilling, historical producing gold fields worked only by artisanal miners in the past, and that's a long decades and decades ago. Welcome Reef Legacy produced 9,000 ounces at 25 grams per ton of gold, with widths and grades improving at depth. Golden Cross plans to drill beneath where artisanal miners previously explored. Historic wealth creation. Legendary prospector Louis Moy's success at Welcome Reef helped establish Westpac Bank, now Australia's oldest and one of its largest banks. So back in over 100 years ago, he was a prospector, and because he had success on this Welcome Reef target that their prospect, it made him a very wealthy man. He started a bank, and that bank's been is the oldest one in Australia and one of its largest banks. Now, something that, oh, here's some interesting information. Both areas host a rich history of artisanal mining and high-grade gold production dating back to the 1800s, yet neither has ever been explored with modern techniques. This program marks the first opportunity to unlock the true potential of these historic gold fields using contemporary exploration permits. Now, you can see these little red dots here. You see it's just riddled with red dots, okay? Those are all historical shafts, or where the artisanal miners were digging up the rock, if you will. And as you can see, they're currently drilling around here at the Reedy Creek anticline. And Welcome Reef is where they're going to do some more drilling, and Shepherd's Hill, which is at the north end of this big series of northwest end of the big series of past production. Now, it's interesting. This map is also interesting because, for one, look at how much land they own here. And this is highly prospective for epithermal vein systems and or sorry, orogenic gold systems. Southern Cross is their Sunday Creek discovery is right here. And as you can see, there was only a little bit of historical mining on there, especially when you compare it to all this, all this, all this, all this, all this, all this. And so really great project that Golden Cross has uh, in Australia. Now, also, if you go up here a little bit more, about 40 kilometers away, is where one of the greatest, if not the greatest, orogenic gold system or mine called Fosterville is that mine is up there. So they're in the right kind of rock package, and these lines here are structural orientation of the key structures, which are important. So in an orogenic gold system, you need these old rocks in greenstone belts. You also need the structures, which are cracks in the earth that the metals bearing fluids follow up. Now, I would point out that this area here is very highly prospective to me because you see a big bend in the structure. And that is where you can get really sort of ideal rock preparation for deposits to form that have very deep roots. You'll notice that all along this structure is where all the historical mining was found. Here you have several structures, and right on them is where all the historical mining, again, here and in between these two structures, you find a lot of the historical mining. I'm very positive about this company. I'm very bullish on what they're doing. I think that they're going to make some important discoveries here, and I say discoveries on purpose. That's not a Freudian slip. As you can see here, this is the projection of some mineralized reefs. These very well could be veins that are below them. And look at all these green dots of where all the historical mining was done right near all of these reefs. So these secondary structures are also very important when you're looking for an orogenic gold system, and they give you tighter ideas of what they're looking for, and they've got a whole bunch more information in there. Matt Roma, he stated in this news release, and I quote, with the access agreement at Welcome Reef now secured, we have two parallel opportunities, advancing a brand new discovery at Shepherd's Hill and applying modern exploration techniques to a historically proven gold field at Welcome Reef. This combination of fresh targets and historical producers, combined with the potential we see at our current drilling at Reedy Creek, underpins the scale of our Victorian opportunity. End quote. So again, a lot of great information in there. Um, and to me, this, you don't find many projects these days that are this big in such an important mining district as around Fosterville. And they've got a great land package. They're cashed up. We talked about all of this in the interview earlier today. And so I would advise you to do your homework. And by that interview is a great way to start that homework on Golden Cross Resources. All right. The next company I have to talk about is a company called IDEX Metals. And they had news out earlier today, and this is a brand new pick for me. that I'm adding to my list of explorers. IDEX Metals receives, oh, I forgot to Golden Crosses. Let's look at their stock chart. Uh, I just started picking them back around here. I think they were about 50 cents, 55 cents. They're 87 cents now. They just started trading a few months ago, and within a few weeks, they were drilling. And all those assay results are pending. I really am bullish about the stock trend as well because, as you can see, it's trading well above the 50-day moving average and that 50-day moving average, which is more indicative of what's happening than the 200-day with a company that is this new. But I love seeing them when they trade well above the 50-day moving average. And with so much pending results coming out and all the drilling that they're going to be doing and are doing, and the target rich project that they have, I think speaks very well of the potential of this company. So as I said, take a look at that interview and do your homework on Golden Cross. Okay, IDEX. IDEX Metals is in Idaho. Idaho has really burst onto the scene because of another pick of mine called Hercules Metals. And let's pull the news release up on IDEX. So IDEX receives USFS approval and provides drilling update for the Freeze project in Idaho. Is they're pleased to announce that the U.S. Forest Service, or USFS, has approved the company's plan of operations under a categorical exclusion for expanded exploration at its 100% owned Freeze project located in Washington County, Idaho. With the CE approval in place, IDEX is now positioned to advance exploration on its highly prospective USFS claims that form the western part of the Freeze project. Anticipated work programs include diamond drilling, ground-based geophysics, expanded mapping and sampling, all aimed at advancing the company's magmatic hydrothermal copper gold model. This approval also allows for future drilling at the CM prospect, a large previously untested target that will complement ongoing drilling at the Kismet area. Clayton Fisher is the CEO of IDEX, and he commented, and I quote, we're really pleased to have the green light to drill CM. It's a big target we've been eager to test, and adding it to the program makes this project even more exciting. With current drilling at Kismet and the CM prospect now ready to go, we have a real opportunity to show the scale of what is emerging at the Freeze project. Then they give you a drilling update um, on the 2025 drill program, which was designed for two primary objectives: to confirm the subsurface presence of a mineralized tourmaline-bearing breccia reported in historical records, and two, to test at depth for a potential causative porphyry source to the breccia. IDEX has now completed its first hole of the 2025 season at the Kismet target. KSMT 25001 was designed to test and confirm the existence and extent of the tourmaline breccia and associated intrusive lithologies documented at surface and in historical reports. Historical drilling at Kismet Prospect from 1965 yielded an intercept of 41.15 meters at 0.85% copper from 9.414 meters in hole 4. So that started right at the surface, only 9 meters below the surface. And as you can see, it was a 41-meter interval of 0.85. Included in that was 3 meters of 1.8% copper, and 8.84 meter intersection of 1.872% copper and 4 meters of 2.7% copper. Here is where that historical hole was drilled. And as you can see here, this is where they're chasing after the rest of that breccia pipe. And who knows how big that can be. Indications at the surface are that you could be looking at a pretty good sized pipe because they had copper in soils here, here, and then this is where the drill hole hit it. So it's open at depth. They got drilling underway. That's very exciting. They give you a geological description. And so that's a good one for you to take a look at because these breccia pipes can be important for two reasons. One is that they can be standalone mines on their own. There are breccia pipes being mined, and what's exciting about them is that they can be very high grade as well. In this case, you're looking at some of those intersections, and they very well could be at the outer edge. They could uh, have size and could see increased grades as you get more into the pipe and as you follow it down. Now, the second reason that they're very important is that breccia pipes can lead you to where the porphyry that they came off of is located. And so it can be a standalone mine of high grade, or it could also lead you to where the porphyry source of that breccia pipe came from. And so these are the reasons that I've decided to add IDEX to my list of picks for a Copper Explorer. Now let's pick up their uh, stock here. And as you can see, of late, since things are looking really good, it's made a significant breakout. But I would add that if they hit what I think they could hit, that this still is a very modest valuation. Now, after a spike like this, sometimes you'll get them coming back to you. And I think that's a good way to look at IDEX. If you are not concerned about saving 10 or 15 cents, well, you might want to take a flyer. And if they hit, this could get very exciting very quickly because that breccia pipe could be a real barn burner. And as I said, could lead them to the porphyry that it came from. So I'm very excited about what they're doing in Idaho, right beside where Hercules Metals is also having a lot of success, and they're drilling now too. So there's two or three companies in that immediate area in Idaho looking for porphyry discoveries, and in this case, breccia pipe. And I'm going to be watching this one closely and talking about it in future shows. I am certain of that. All right, now I'm going to go to Foran Mining. And Foran is an example of something that I look for, which is they're in the Lassonde curve. There's two really exciting parts of that. One's called the left side of the Lassonde curve, and the other is called the right side of the Lassonde curve. On the left side of the Lassonde curve is where a company makes a discovery and it sees their valuation ramp up quite dramatically. Then there's a valley called the development discount window. And then you get to where they bring something into production, and that's called the right side of the Lassonde curve. And oftentimes the right side can exceed the left side of the curve. So this is why you want to pay attention to them when they get through the development discount window. They've done all their economic studies, they've started construction, and in that is a sweet spot just before they start going up the right side of the Lassonde curve. I'm also going to show you later their stock chart, which is you'll see why I'm so happy to be able to find them to add them to the list now. So this company has completed about 50% of their construction. They're financed for all the construction costs. When it gets into production, now this is based on an older feasibility study, so you will see different numbers as they get it into production based on where the current price of copper, gold, silver, zinc are. But even at that, they've got an IRR, internal rate of return of 23%, and a payback of their capital costs to build the mine of 3.8 years. And then it's got a very long mine life. So this is a great combination in a copper project. It ranks right up there with a lot of the great ones that are in development now. And I really like what I see there. They also have Agnico Eagle, my top pick for a major gold miner. It owns 13% of of Foran. And Pierre Lassonde himself, who I was earlier talking about the Lassonde curve, also owns a significant portion. And their plan is to, in 2026, right now they're building, they're stockpiling material, they're getting ready to bring it into production, and then move it through to full commercial production in 2026. So, as they say here, North America's leading copper developer, permitted, in construction, scalable, and unmatched. So let's see what why they say that. And in here, Foran, the ideal investment for copper's future. Multi-generational asset with scalable expansion potential. It's in Saskatchewan, which is a premier jurisdiction, very mining friendly. It's a VMS deposit, which are company makers. Why that is the case is because these VMS deposits tend to come in clusters. And so where you find one, two, three, you can find more. Producer status is an opportunity for re-rating of the company, strategic partnerships, and renowned shareholder register. Sustainability focus, targeting net zero carbon copper. So that's what everybody wants these days is these carbon neutral net zero projects. They talk about establishing a true Canadian critical metals champion, supported by top Canadian investors, including Fairfax Holdings, Agnico Eagle, Canada Growth Fund, and Pierre Lassonde, highlighting the property's untapped value and growing demand for critical metals. A joint technical committee with Agnico Eagle leverages unparalleled expertise, increasing confidence in successful execution. Agnico Eagle is one of the most efficient miners of anything in the world. And so having that technical input is very exciting. Agnico Eagle owns 13.5%. Fairfax has 22%. Canadian Growth Fund has 10. Management and Insiders 9%, and Pierre Lassonde 3%. The Saskatchewan advantage. Saskatchewan's rich resources, supportive governance, and commitment to innovation make mining a leading industry in the province. Saskatchewan was ranked third on Investment Attractiveness Index and second in Policy Perception Index in the 2023 Fraser Institute's annual survey of mining companies. They have a favorable tax incentive, such as the mineral exploration tax credit. The province is supported by a well-established and transparent regulatory framework that provides clarity for permitting and compliance. and they have a collaborative agreements with the indigenous communities, all very important factors. Here they give you an introduction to the McIlvenna Bay project, the next Canadian copper mine. Here's their land package. Here's their three important deposits: Big Stone deposit, McIlvenna Bay deposit, and the Tesla zone. Project highlights: widely wholly owned scalable property. They own 100%, Foran does, of 140,000 hectare land package. Attractive commodity mix, primarily copper and zinc with strong gold and silver byproducts. Company making asset, VMS with an initial 18-year mine life with potential expansion operations. They're already expanding, focused on continued growth. Advanced regional exploration targets offer further potential upside. Supported by robust historical work, 160,000 meters plus of exploration drilling since 1998. Near-term production targeting commercial production by mid-2026. So they're going to be ramping it up. Low execution risk permitted in a mining-friendly jurisdiction. McIlvenna Bay Q2 2025 construction progress. Completed installation of mill structural steel. Well, they give you all the details of what they've done, but they're at about 50% of their construction, and they've got everything that they need to get through to 100% construction. Here they give you some images of the aerial photo of the site featuring the processing plant right here. And you can see all the other buildings that are needed to mine something like this. Here is more another of the processing plant and paste plant construction. Here's more. There's their SAG mill, their flotation circuit, construction. Here's their underground development and their underground jumbo bolting. So this is giving you an idea of how they're getting their way underground to mine this thing. Here's their updated project timeline. I won't go through all of these. I will note the one at the bottom, which is commercial production in 2026, as they stated earlier. Sources and uses table. They talk about the financing that they've got in place for the mine, the net payables, all their credit facilities, all that important stuff for a mine build. Then they talk about the Tesla target, which is the next phase of growth, advancing towards a maiden resource. Tesla holds the potential to increase the life mine at McIlvenna Bay with this Tesla target. It was discovered in 2022. It's located only 300 meters from the McIlvenna Bay deposit. 86,000 meters have been drilled, 1,350 plus meters in length. It's 500 to 700 meters of width. Foran launched a 30,000 meter drill program at Tesla in 2025, with results anticipated in the second half of 2025. The exploration targets, they're looking for something in the 28 million to 45 million. To put that into context, that is up there as far as VMS systems go. As you can see here, they're talking about the copper grade being between 0.9 to 1.3%, zinc grade 3.6% to 5.4. Some nice credits for silver of 22 grams to 34 grams. The gold grade is 0.2 to 0.03, which leads to a copper equivalent grade of 2.2 to 3.2%. That's the beauty of VMS deposits. They're very much higher grade than a porphyry kind of system. Now, porphyries can be very big, lower grade, but you process thousands of tons, so they're a very important source. But for high grade sources of copper, you really can't beat VMS systems. And here they show you the underground workings of McIlvenna Bay and then what they are contemplating at Tesla. And so that's very exciting. Here they give you some comparables. So McIlvenna Bay is a company making VMS deposit, Canada's top VMS asset, showcasing potential for incremental mineralization at depth. So here you can see this is the main McIlvenna Bay. That's the first mine, starting right at surface. And then right beside that is Tesla, which is untested below this orange or copper colored outline here. So here they give you an example of how these, like LaRonde is one of Canada's great ones, and look at how it has evolved uh, over time and drilling. And it's a spectacular mine, 10.9 million tons at 3.16% copper equivalent. Just the beauty of in their 2023 mineral resource. And then one of the great Kid Creek mine, one of the great mines. This is an Agnico Eagle, and it was sort of a company maker for Agnico Eagle. So considering that Agnico Eagle is a big shareholder of Foran, think that's a great way to have a comparable by your biggest share. One of your big shareholders is a major mining company that kind of became that because of LaRonde. And Kid Creek is a Glencore Falconbridge, then Extrata mine that was another spectacular one, 25 million tons at 1.6% copper, 3.45% zinc, and 38 grams of silver. So you can see the comparables are very good comparables and parallels to what McIlvenna is starting out at. Uh, and then they give you some appendix poised for a producer re-rate. So this is talking about what I talked about earlier, which is the sweet spot before a company goes into the right side of the Lassonde curve. And this is the kind of thing you can see when they get into the right side of the Lassonde curve. And right now, Foran is trading down here at the sweet spot of the development discount window of the Lassonde curve. Here's they talk about unrecognized advantage, the value of a top tier jurisdiction. It takes 23 years to bring a project from discovery to production. Half of that time is from feasibility study to production. So as you can see, they've gone beyond all of that time period, and now they're on the cusp of bringing it into production. Here they give you the shares outstanding, the key shareholders, and the analysts that have coverage of the company and the targets. Now, this can all be changed as the price of copper. I think the price of copper is going up quite dramatically above $5 per pound, and that can change the valuation quite dramatically. Here is their key people, their board of directors, mineral reserves and resources, estimates of what they have, and how to contact the company. So, as you can see, now here is more of an emphasis that I want to bring up, which is their stock chart, which reinforces what I've talked about uh, in the um, in the Lassonde curve. Okay. So as you can see, let's go back a little ways. As they were in construction, they were basically flatlining for, a couple of years. And then they dipped down, which can often happen at the latter stages of the Lassonde curve. If you have if you have some delays or you have some added costs, that can give a dip in the stock. Now, I think when they get through that dip is when they start to go into production. And as you can see, it's trading right near how many, we got to go back to 2023, 2022 to see the last time it was trading at this level. So not only are they moving it into production, their stock is trading at a low valuation if you compare it to the last couple of years. And so I think this is an ideal time to be looking at a company like this. And I'm really super stoked about having them as a new pick in the reports as a developer because I do have developers on my list, but I don't have a lot of copper developers. And that is indicative of the industry as well. A high, there's the supply chain is challenged, especially when you look at it relative to all the demand that's coming up. What that means is the supply chain is not well prepared for the demand that's coming up from things like artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and other technology, uh, cryptocurrency mining, the building of the rebuilding of aging infrastructure in power grids in Western developed economies and the new construction. And robots are not that far away. Electric vehicles, they all need a lot of copper, and the supply chain is not well prepared for that demand that's upcoming. And it's going to stay that way because you look at the company projects. First of all, you look at the mines that are in production. Most of those were found 50 or more years ago, and they're running towards the end of their mine life. So now you got to look at the developers, and there's not very many developers, and there's not many explorers with important discoveries. So that supply chain is going to continue to be challenged for a very long time, 10, 20, 30 years. Meanwhile, we've got all this growth in demand occurring. And so that combination is very bullish for copper. And then when you consider that there's not very many copper developers, especially in Canada and especially in a jurisdiction like Saskatchewan. So all of these things combined with the funding in place to bring this into production, the exploration potential of their project, it all points to a very bright future ahead for this company. And as I said earlier, I'm really happy to add them to my list of developers. In this case, it's a copper developer. All right. So that's the show for today. As always, it's important for you to do your homework and speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions. I'm merely an idea generator. I use my 32 years of experience in the mining business to have developed a checklist or a filter, if you will, of what I look for. And I try to explain and why I like a company and and then follow it as it evolves. And I'm very positive about the future for Foran. But again, it's important for you to understand the companies you invest in. And a good way to do that is to go to their website, go to YouTube, do a search for the company, and do that homework because ultimately, it doesn't matter what sector you're investing in. The more well informed you are about the sector you're investing in and the companies you're investing in that sector, the more informed you will be as an investor. And a more informed investor is less likely to make emotional investment decisions because emotional investment decisions are often a recipe for disaster as an investor, and that doesn't matter what sector you're invested in. So do that homework on Foran. I'm very bullish on what they're doing, and I will have a lot to talk about regarding this company, and I will try to get them on an interview as well. So on that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.